Welcome students. So for what? To consolidate and prevent recurrence of any armed confrontation. So the attempt to address underlying rebuilding of the state when armed conflict is over, and it is based on of the peace. This is a liberal peace conceptualization by Adam Smith. So after this liberal peace building, we can go for another concept of peace building, that is known as sustainable peace building. What is this? In this peace building framework, which is based on understanding of peace building that centers around sustainable reconciliation within societies. Peace building can be achieved through the establishment of structures, processes, and training of people within a generation long time frame. This definition of John Paul. So what we again let our understanding clear about sustainable peace building. It is a kind of peace building framework which is based on understanding of peace building, which is centered around sustainable reconciliation within societies. Means different groups, different subsections in the societies which work toward mutual sustainable reconciliation of which is existing among their group or their social group or their existence in the different societies. So peace building, another approach for the peace building given by John Paul under sustainable peace building, is it can be achieved through establishment of structure, process, and training of people within a generation long time frame. And which is saying the generation long time frame means it is a time taking process towards achieving a sustainable peace building. So complexity theory of conflict prevention and peace building. After these two understanding of liberal peace building and sustainable peace building, we go for our understanding about complexity theory of conflict prevention and peace building. It is given by not a peace building is not a short term process. It is a long term process which can go for achieving the objective of peace building, which ranges from 5 to 10 years. And the third is, peace building should create conducive condition for economic reconstruction, development, democratization as preconditions for legitimate democratic order, and should not be equated and thus confused with these concepts. So peace building can have 3 or 4 major criteria. The first is economic reconstruction after the armed conflict is over, which is very important. And secondly, it goes for legitimate democratic order, means democratic principle based governance in that particular country, state or region. Though when these all things are combined, it can go for the overall understanding and developing peace building process in that particular country, area or region. So next point that we are going to take your attention is towards peace building in international relation theory, means how peace building is related with international relations. So the first is realistic theory of peace building. What does it say? It focuses on balance of power among sovereign nation states based on understanding that international system is anarchic and states are driven by interest rather than idealistic norms. So realistic state of theory says that it basically depends upon the understanding that international system, means the international relation that it is understood in this particular theory is basically interest rather than idealistic norms. Idealistic theory of peace building says that it advocates for a world regulated by international organizations, norms and standards, just like conflict resolution school. So before we move to the conflict resolution school, let's have two more important dimension of the conflict. The first school, that is conflict management school. It says that it has been criticized. Now before this we have seen three basic positivity of conflict management school. Now let us the negative point on which this school has been criticized. This school has been criticized on the ground that mediators tend to concentrate solely on the top leadership of the conflicting parties and not always neutral in internal conflicts. And secondly, it overlooks deep causes of conflicts and thus cannot guarantee long-term stability of the peace agreement. As we have understood that this particular school of thought is for the short-term ending of the conflict, means the outcome which is generated from the conflict management school are not standing for or not giving any kind of guarantee for long-term stability of the peace agreement. So this was about conflict management school. The second school of thought is, so in conflict resolution school, its approach is to solve underlying causes of conflict and rebuild destroyed relationship between the parties. Conflict management and conflict resolution. So this second school of conflict resolution, as opposed to conflict management, its approach is to solve underlying causes of the conflict and rebuild destroyed relationship between the parties. So conflict resolution is basically upon redeveloping the destroyed relationship. This school is based on legal mechanism and conventional negotiation to settle disputes by finding compromise solution. So conflict resolution school is basically a kind of compromising solution based school. Under this logic, relationship need to be rebuilt not only between the top representative of the conflict parties but also within society at large. Now criticize means the weakness and the poor points or the weak points of this particular school is that this process is very lengthy, whereas the conflict management school was able to complete the entire process of 5 to 10 years. This school is far lengthy to able to stop wars, means there is no guarantee that the war will be stopped. Improving communication and building relationship, on which this school particularly concentrates between the conflict parties, it is not guaranteed or not necessarily result in agreement to end the war. So it is not very sure that after going through this school and resolution and creating kind of peace, overcoming that and finding a resolution, so this is not guaranteed that it will end the war. So after conflict management school, conflict resolution school, we come to the third school, that is known as complementary school. The complementary school of thought says that it focuses on possible congruence between conflict management and resolution schools, combination of both of these two schools. And there are three approaches in this particular school. This is also known as contingency model for third party intervention in armed conflict and aimed at identifying the appropriate third party method and timing of the intervention. So under this school, we get a contingency model for third party intervention in the armed conflicts, and it is aimed at identifying the appropriate third party method and timing of the intervention. The conflict escalation model aimed to de-escalate the conflict from phase to phase. According to one of the author, it says that when a conflict is in the early escalation phase, it is the appropriate time for resolution oriented approaches, while conflict management approach like official mediation should be used when the conflict is already on the high escalation level. I again repeat it, under this model, when the conflict is in the early escalation phase, it is the appropriate time to mount resolution oriented approaches. But while the conflict management approaches, like official mediation, it should be used when the conflict is already on the high escalation phase. Then comes multi-track diplomacy approach. Multi-track diplomacy approach, it seeks to make a clear distinction between different approaches and actors by adopting a track concept. What is track? Track 1 involves diplomatic peace building initiative by governments and is in the line with the conflict management school. Track 2 represents original conflict resolution school, while the other tracks try to cluster other relevant actors. And finally, we comes for conflict transformation school. It was given by John Paul in 1997. It recognizes that existence of irresolvable conflicts and therefore suggests replacing the term conflict resolution with the term conflict transformation. So the basic tenet of conflict transformation school is that it is moving from conflict resolution to conflict transformation. For a constructive transformation of conflict, it is very necessary to identify and consolidate support structure that is going to strengthen the peace process. So we are moving from conflict resolution to conflict transformation for a constructive transformation of conflict, which is necessary to identify and consolidate support structure which is going to strengthen the peace process. In this approach, society is divided into 3 levels, and these 3 levels can be approached by 3 different set of peace building strategies. The top leadership can be accessed by mediation at the level of the states, that is known as track 1. So it will be an outcome oriented approach, while the mid-level leadership, that is the track 2, it can be reached through more resolution oriented approaches such as problem solving workshop, peace commissions with the help of partial insiders. And the third level is a grassroots level, that is track 3. It goes for representation from the majority of the population and can be reached with a wide range of peace building approaches such as local peace commissions, community dialogue projects or trauma building. For your enhanced understanding, I again repeat that under this approach, we have basically 3 tracks at 3 different levels of society. So under track 1, top leadership can be accessed by mediation at the level of the state, and it is based on outcome oriented approach. Under second level, that is known as mid-level leadership, which can be reached through